Kirsty, 28, the scientist leading fight against antibiotic resistance crisis after creating first new class of drug in 40 years, might not live to see Nobel Prize win after incurable cancer diagnosis. Scientist Kirsty Smitten, 28, could win a Nobel Prize for creating new antibiotics. She has just months to live after being diagnosed with incurable heart cancer. Kirsty said, "There aren't words to express how sad I feel about not seeing award." Kirsty Smitten harbors fantasies of one day collecting a Nobel Prize for her scientific work, and rightly so, given that it could save millions of lives and avert a medical catastrophe. At just 28, she has achieved something that hasn't been done for nearly 40 years. Created a new class of antibiotics. In doing so, she is leading the fight against antimicrobial resistance, what the World Health Organization calls one of the biggest threats to global health, which has seen bacteria, viruses, fungi, and parasites evolve over time and no longer respond to medicines. However, in a devastating twist of fate, this exceptional biochemist is now having to face up to the fact she may not be around to receive any accolades. Kirsty has been given just months to live after being diagnosed with heart cancer, a terminal disease so rare it affects only 2 people a year in the UK. How? I mean, really, how has this happened? Asks Kirsty when we meet at the Cornish Bolthole, where she is spending a week recuperating between rounds of chemotherapy with her fox red Labrador, Bailey. Eat healthily. I don't drink much, I don't smoke. And, until my diagnosis, I played sport every day. There aren't words to express how sad I feel that I might not be around to see how our potentially Nobel Prize-winning work might unfold. My only hope is that the work carries on without me. I'm sure it will. With her team at Metallo Bio, a company she set up with the support of her doctorate supervisor at Sheffield University, Kirsty has developed 2 antibiotic compounds to treat bacterial infections, including strands of pneumonia and meningitis that have become resistant to the drugs usually used to treat them, as well as infections that develop in wounds and after surgery. After proving successful in laboratory and animal testing, the next stage in development will be human trials, beginning with hospital-acquired pneumonia. If, as expected, it proves effective, Kirsty hopes the treatment will be licensed by 2030. This brilliant scientist, who has a PhD in chemistry and, in 2020, was named in Forbes magazine's prestigious 30 Under 30 list for science and healthcare, also raises money for food banks in her spare time. It's a fact there are roughly 150 cases of antibiotic-resistant infections in NHS hospitals every day, according to government figures. She has so much more to offer the world, but as a scientist, despite understandable moments of why me rage, Kirsty is a pragmatist. She knows her cancer was caused by a rare genetic mutation, not her lifestyle. But it is that anger that propels her to pore over research and try to buy whatever additional time she can with the same doggedness that may, eventually, help save the world from antimicrobial resistance. I feel angry towards friends if they say, "I feel unwell today," says Kirsty, examining the cannula that's now a permanent fixture in the vein in her right arm, because 3 think, "Can you moan about that to someone else? It's a bit unfair, because I've asked them to be normal with me. Sometimes the anger overwhelms me." I was watching a TV news report about a convicted rapist the other night and got upset, wanting to know why I've been given only months to live when there are people like him committing terrible atrocities in the world. It seems so unfair. But, even so, I wouldn't wish this on the worst person in the world. Kirsty has cardiac angiosarcoma, a tumor in her heart. If she opted for the surgery needed to remove it, there is a significant risk she would bleed to death. And if she survived the operation, she would, at most, gain only a few more years. This type of tumor will grow back and is likely to spread or burst, causing her heart to fail. While Kirsty's legacy could save millions of lives, she will not now get the chance to realize her other ambitions, falling in love, settling down and having a family. I'm infertile, thanks to the treatment. There wasn't time to do an egg extraction, she says. I'm also single. It wouldn't be fair to be in a relationship not knowing how little time I have left. And, anyway, who wants to date someone with terminal cancer? The first inkling that something was seriously wrong came last November, when Kirsty woke in the night with agonizing chest pains. At the time, her family was mourning the sudden death of her seemingly healthy father, Kevin, 61, a retired businessman who had suffered a heart attack while playing football in Portugal 3 weeks earlier. Taking no risks, Kirsty's mother, Sharon, 60, whisked her to A&E at Birmingham Heartlands Hospital near their Solihull home. Kirsty played football and hockey every day, and was a regular at her gym, so the doctor said he thought her pains were probably a pulled muscle in her chest, and planned to send her home with painkillers. But Kirsty, who perhaps has more understanding of the human body than most, refused to leave, insisting the pain was too intense and that it warranted an X-ray, which was duly performed. The doctor also ran blood tests. Several hours later, 2 consultants took her into a room where they explained that the clotting factor in her blood was raised, which could signify a pulmonary embolism, a potentially fatal clot in the lung. They also said the right atrium in her heart was 3 times the size it should be. Heparin, an anticoagulant used to decrease the blood's clotting ability, was administered and an emergency CT scan ordered for the following day. Kirsty recalls, after the scan, I saw a consultant and he said, "Good news, you don't have a pulmonary embolism, but we found a 6 cm mass in your mediastinum, the space in the chest that holds the heart." He said there were many things this could be, other than cancer. But I think, even at that point, I knew the fate that lay ahead. An MRI followed. Kirsty was told the mass was irregular and accumulating a lot of the dye used by doctors to make it more visible on the scan, all bad signs. She understood more about the terrible implications than her mum and older brothers, Matt and Dan. I have a good knowledge of oncology through my work, and realized that meant it was cancerous, she says. I warned my family that an irregular-shaped mass accumulating a lot of dye was really not good. Due to the delicate positioning of the tumor and the risk of suffering a serious bleed, Kirsty underwent numerous procedures before her terminal diagnosis. It took 3 months, 7 scans, 15 blood tests, a minimally invasive biopsy and major heart surgery to tell me Lee have angiosarcoma, says Kirsty. It's the most aggressive type of sarcoma, or, as I call it, the death sentence. They told me, have just 7 months to live. Since her diagnosis on February 8, Kirsty has undergone 6 rounds of chemotherapy and takes 48 tablets a day. These include heavy-duty pain relief, anti-nausea medication, antacids, an antihistamine to ease the chemo-induced rashes, and iron for her low red blood cell count, all in the knowledge that they cannot save her life.